Hello, hello, and welcome back to Space Engineers on the Xbox, on the Series X, and I am on the mend. I'm also on the planet of Pertum. You might recognise this from some of my earlier videos, especially the one where we built this big mobile headquarters. This is not a mobile headquarters. This is using some of the brand new blocks that were added in 1.203. These are some of my favourite thrusters ever. The flat half block Atmos, and they are great fun to play with because you can use them in a new kind of way. So here, as you can see, we have downward thrust, or rather upward thrust even, and one down thruster. But because they're half blocks, you can play with them in an entirely different fashion. Like the old thrusters, like these, could only be placed in a specific way. These, on the other hand, you can place like this, which means your builds can start to be a lot more compact. And I mean, this little throw together build I did earlier when playing with these Atmos is not just for show. I wanted to talk on this video about a subject that is one that I see crop up now and then, and that's power to grids attached to other grids. At the moment, if we were playing in survival, the batteries on this thing would be slowly dying. They would be slowly draining, because even if I put a battery on this grid, this would not be drawing power. And I've seen people stick me out blind. That is not the case. They build on a landing gear because landing gears are capable of transferring power. And no matter what you tell them, they will say that power flows through a landing gear. So, how do we demonstrate that power doesn't indeed flow through a gear? Well, we've got a couple of ways we can do this. One, we're going to build my favourite thing. We're going to build a rotor, because rotors and hinges and pistons, although you shouldn't really want to build too much off a piston, although you can do, because if you're building off a piston you can then change the height of the build. Good for something, say, like rovers. You could build a dedicated building rig arm. You've seen me do this before, by the way. Put down a rotor, cut off the head, and we can add our rotary, or rather our control panel, and rotate it like so. Come into the rotor by pressing X on the control panel and add a small head, then come down and lock your rotor. That rotor is now locked. Get a light armor block, and we're just going to pop a light armor block here like so, and then for ease of use, and because it's a good visual indicator, we're going to come along to lighting and we're going to throw on our good old rotating light. And then we're going to do a similar thing. This time we're going to pick up a landing gear. And we're going to change its block size by holding down the left bumper, tapping X. We're going to look at this landing gear now and see that it rotates along the horizontal axis, and push left on the D-pad until it's facing downwards. Then we're going to paste it and it will drop and lock. We're then going to take our light armor blocks. I'm going to pull a little light armor block tower, and we're going to do the same thing with a rotating light. Okie dokie. Now we are going to pop down a battery, but first we're going to change the time of day so we can see the light more easily. So by holding down the right bumper and pressing Y, you will access your admin screen, whether you are playing in creative mode or not. You can change all sorts of settings, and if you want to see what that is, I've got a video on it. Just take a look through my new players guides and you'll see my discussion on the admin screen, or search the channel for admin screen or admin. That said, we want this setting here, time of day, and by pushing the time of day slider, you can see time is changing until we're at a kind of dusk. Now, if we attach our battery, you will see that our rotating light is spinning quite nicely on top of our rotor, casting volumetric lighting off into Pertum's dusty atmosphere. But you'll see here that our landing gear setup isn't working. That's because the only way to get it to work is to put a battery on the gear itself. Power does not transfer through a landing gear to a grid, only through a rotor to a grid or a hinge, or like I said, power will transfer through. And just to prove it, we'll grab ourselves a hinge, we'll grab ourselves any old light like so, and finally our piston. So as you can see, power is transferred through these three, but not through the other. Let's just get rid of this. So that is your little tutorial on power, or my little discussion on power and why it's always wise to build off a rotor, especially if you're playing in survival mode. Let's go back though to our little thrusters. So one thing I really like about these thrusters, as I said, you can make some pretty compact designs. So let's have a look. Let's pop a few little batteries as our basis of a little grid. You can make really small designs, but a little base of some batteries. We'll need a gyroscope. And some way, shape or form of controlling this contraption when it's working. In fact, a control seat will do it. I don't think it needs any more batteries, so I'm just going to fill this little gap underneath the control seat with some light armour blocks. And we need some thrusters. We're going to use the Atmos. And we'll see how many it takes on the flat Atmos to get this thing moving. So as I said, we could put two either side. Actually, hold on, let's make it more interesting and show off a little trick you can do with these. That's right, because they're half blocks. As I said at the start of this video. So that's forward and back. Left and right, like so. Now we need some lift. And let's try 3 of these. And we don't really need the downforce unless we're going with AI. Let's just quick save. Both bumpers and X, remember that one? We have everything we need. Let's just bring the camera into third person, right bumper and up. You can adjust your camera as well. People have asked this question numerous times by holding both bumpers down on your controller on the Xbox, and you can see that you can zoom in and out. You can't zoom too close in that regard, but you can see my little flyer. So what we need to do really is cut this thing loose and see if it drops to the deck. If it drops to the deck, we need to add more thrusters to provide lift. There we are, we're free floating. So let's have a look. Power use is good. The Scooty chair, fairly decent, compact little scout vehicle. You could put a small ore detector on this underneath, extending the natural range of your ore detector. And as you see with Pertum, you don't need to be aggressive when changing the height. And you've got a built-in charge station if you want. You could just slap a small connector on the back end of this, because that was another thing added in a previous update, was the small grid connector, which replaced the ejector. So you can just add this like this, and you probably want to change the settings. To turn off the parking signal on that, and turn off the parking signal on this one, so that if we press the Y button, it's not going to work. Then we want to jump into the seat on this. Push up on the D-pad, choose our little connector off the blocks here, and just go switch lock. And you've seen me do this time and time again, and if you haven't, you hold down the direction you want, like so. You use the D-pad to choose small connector, press A on it, choose switch lock, and you're done. And then when we maneuver our grid, get it in the right place. It turns yellow. It's ready to lock. Push up on the D-pad. It's now locked. You'll now see that our battery on our main grid, sorry, we want the battery on the subgrid, like small batteries. Won't be charging. So what we need to do is do one of my favourite things that I love to build, and we can actually build this up like this. And since we're on Pertum, it's a very good place to have wind turbines, and we could use the new twin blade wind turbine just for there. That should give us the clearance we want. You don't have to build them like this. The only problem with doing it like that, of course, is I'd need to put blocks down. I forgot to put the block in, didn't I? Hopefully this doesn't delete the whole thing. Fingers crossed. Sweet. It might be that these require more than one block away from the other, but we'll see. Yeah, looks as though it needs possibly 2 blocks for this variant. I've not used these before. So yeah, when you're building this particular version of the tower, you'll need to take into account that it might be wise to do a 2-block tower like so. Not quite sure why that one's not spinning, but this is Space Engineers. And it can be a bit weird at times. Odd. There seems to be no limit, but anyway, this should give us enough power on the batteries I'd hope. Again, it's all new blocks. I haven't played around with these. They might not be high enough, of course. Whereas the other wind turbines do indeed provide. Let's just get rid of these. And what you can see there as well is the new colourable solar panels. Like I said, a lot of this stuff is a mix of blocks from the update and the DLC. You can go through my previous video, tells you which ones are which. Let's have a look now. Probably because the wind's not fast enough or they're not high enough. But anyway, that's the general idea, to create a charging station for your craft. And with the new camera, we've got a lot more options when it comes down to actually building places to land our vehicles in too, as that's one of the big updates that came out recently. Let me just move this thing out of the way. Now I am actually using the parking brake on this one. Let's just quickly make a little kind of impromptu garage / hangar. And no doubt somebody will probably ask, how are you building like this in, well, it's creative mode for a start, and I'm using building with the line variant. I could even do it a different way and build out a plane by clicking in the right stick, making sure you're far left of the menu. On the build mode, you will see toggle multi-block building, line, plane, single block. Line, plane, center it, reselect your blocks, and then boom, one roof. Back to line, done. So normally in the previous version of Space Engineers before the update, when piloting said vessel in third person, getting into hangars like this was a royal pain because the camera would not play ball. But now you can see, if I get into the ship now, the camera adjusts to give us a better view, and I can even bring the ceiling in closer. First of all, make sure you've got your block selected. Forgot to mention that previously. Then you can toggle your multi-block building. That is an important step. Make sure you do have a block, and then you'll have to reselect it again. But we can pull our ceiling in one more block. And you'll see the camera allows us pretty good control over when we come into the hangar. So docking is a lot easier. We can zoom it in and out, get the right angle, come down. You can even come down onto a connector below the ship, and yeah, there you go. That's some little bits and pieces for Space Engineers. Let's just get rid of that. There we are. Our output's working now. It was because we had a battery on the grid. But that is our little video for today. It's getting close to nearly half an hour, and that's roughly about the time I like to do these videos for. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for the likes, the subscribes, the support. Thank you for sticking with me while I've been recovering from being ill. I've pretty much got my voice back, and I've got my impetus, my mojo back. Stay tuned for even more from me. Stay tuned from, like I said, we're going to be diving into Starfield because I'm really enjoying the game. I've put over combined playtime between two characters around nearly 8 days of playtime into Starfield so far. Work that one out in hours if you so desire. Anyway, that's all from me then. Stay safe, take care, have fun, enjoy the game. Loads more from me, loads more from Keen Software, and definitely give this update a whirl, give the DLC a buy, support the developers, and I will catch you absolutely in the next one and out there in the field of stars. Bye for now.